All right, let's talk about something I think a lot of us feel. You look at the traditional path, right? The straight line career, the house, all those predictable milestones, and you just feel like you're reading from a completely different script. If that sense of being just a little out of sync sounds familiar, well, you're definitely in the right place.
So does this question kind of hit home for you? You look around and it seems like everyone else is playing the same game, you know? They're hitting all the expected milestones, climbing the career ladder, getting the mortgage. But for you, it just doesn't connect. It's this nagging feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're not even supposed to be on this particular field.
Well, it turns out there's a name for that. You could call it traditional life discomfort. It's that feeling, that persistent sense that the standard blueprint for what a successful life is supposed to look like, it just doesn't match your own internal wiring. So let's dig in and figure out what's really going on under the hood.
Okay, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at what's called the conventional life paradox. Then, we'll define this idea of an unconventional goal system. After that, we'll dive deep into 6 key traits of folks who operate this way. And finally, we'll wrap up by talking about how to embrace your own unique path.
All right, first up, the conventional life paradox. You know that weird feeling you get when you're questioning a path that literally everyone else seems to think is the obvious choice? It's like they all see this perfectly paved straight road, but you just can't shake the feeling that you're supposed to be exploring all the interesting terrain right next to it. But here's a really powerful thought. What if this feeling doesn't mean you're lost? What if it just means you're operating on a completely different framework for what ambition even is? And that brings us to the absolute core idea of this whole explainer: unconventional goal systems. So what exactly is an unconventional goal system? Okay, think of it like an internal operating system. It's a mindset that's really common in highly analytical people. For them, success isn't about the external stuff. The job titles, the salary. Nope, it's all about internal benchmarks. The questions they're asking are things like, am I actually mentally fulfilled? Or do I have the independence I need? That's their true north.
Okay, now we're getting to the heart of it. To really get a handle on this mindset, we're going to break it down into 6 specific traits. And I mean it. Pay close attention here, because this is where you might start seeing a reflection of yourself.
So, here they are. A deep need for mental fulfillment, constant questioning of why, a drive for independence, prioritizing deep reflection, resistance to social expectations, and finally, a focus on the process, not just the milestones. Let's jump right into number 1.
All right, first up, number 1.
So this first one is a biggie, a deep need for mental fulfillment. Look at the difference here. The conventional view is that a job is basically a transaction, right? You put in the work, you get a paycheck. But for someone with this unconventional view, if the job isn't mentally stimulating, if it's not feeding their curiosity, it just feels totally empty. The paycheck almost doesn't matter.
Okay, moving on to number 2.
And this one is all about constantly asking why. See, the conventional path, it kind of just runs on autopilot. You do things because, well, that's what you're supposed to do. But this other mindset, it slams on the brakes. It absolutely has to understand the why behind any goal. If there's no compelling reason, the motivation just isn't there. The engine won't even turn over.
And that brings us to number 3.
This is all about a powerful, innate drive for independence. Look, on one hand, a structured, well-defined path can feel safe. But for people with this mindset, that very structure can feel totally suffocating. The goal isn't just to climb a ladder that someone else built. The real prize is the freedom and autonomy to build your own.
All right, let's look at number 4.
Now this one is subtle, but so important. Prioritizing deep reflection. I mean, our whole culture is obsessed with the hustle, right? Constant action, always moving. But for this mindset, the real work happens during the thinking part. Progress isn't just about running faster on the hamster wheel. It's about stepping off to actually think and find some real internal clarity.
Okay, number 5. This is a huge one.
And it's a powerful resistance to social expectations. So many people are motivated by, keeping up with the Joneses. But this mindset, it's like they're playing a totally different game, using a purely internal scorecard. What everyone else thinks just becomes background noise. The only thing that truly matters is living up to their own standards. And that brings us to our 6th and final trait. This is about focusing on the process, not just the milestones. You know how the conventional path can feel like a big checklist you have to tick off? Get the degree, get the job, get the promotion, check, check, check.
Well, for the unconventional thinker, it's the quality of the journey itself that's the real prize. It's not just about planting the flag at the summit, it's about the richness and the learning that happens on the climb up.
So, okay, we've gone through all 6 traits. What do we do with all this? That brings us to our final and honestly most important part, embracing your path. The big reframe here is to stop seeing this as some kind of flaw. It's not. It's just a different operating system.
And that really is the key takeaway. If any of this has been resonating with you, if you've been nodding along, I really want you to let this sink in. Feeling out of step with everyone else is not a problem you need to solve. It just means you're working off a different blueprint for what a meaningful life looks like. And that blueprint is just as valid.
So I'm going to leave you with a question, and it's a question designed to completely shift your perspective. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? It encourages you to ask, okay, so what can I create? If you've realized you're not meant for the conventional, pre-paved road, then what incredible, one-of-a-kind path are you going to build for yourself?